Hey guys, today we're going to talk about good deeds and paying it forward. Come join us. Welcome back, everybody, to Table Talk. My name is Brant.
And my name is Kim. And today we are going to talk about pay it forward and good deeds.
Okay.
So I don't know if you guys know what that means, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about pay it forward. Pay it forward basically is about someone who does something good for you. Instead of you returning the favor, you then do something kind for someone else in hopes that they will then do something kind for someone. So it just continues.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. Well, let me tell you where it comes from. All the way back in 1916, there was a book written.
Hold on. You said 19 what?
1916.
Wow, that's a long time ago.
I know. Well, what happens is a lot of people think it just,
evolved recently over the last decade or so. That's
but
what I
it did
thought.
not.
That's
And then, anyway, the book was written by a woman named Lily Hardy Hammond, and it was called In the Garden of Delight.
Wow.
And she wrote about paying it forward. And then in 1999, a woman by the name of Catherine Ryan Hyde then wrote the book Pay It Forward.
Wow, okay.
Which they made a movie about
Right.
in the year 2000.
Right.
And basically the movie and the book were about a little boy who was given an assignment by his teacher. The whole class was given an assignment for them to write a paper on what they would do to change the world. And so he came up with this idea that if 3 people did good deeds for someone else, then those 3 people would go ahead and tell 3 more people.
And it would multiply and multiply and multiply.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And this was in California, and it was a movie, but in the movie, it became a movement. So other people were doing it around California, and it got back to them that it became a movement from this little boy's idea. And so I thought that was wonderful. It was a great movie. The only part about it is in the end, he was killed. And that was kind of sad. But what happened was he did good deeds for people, and he was trying to help people. A lot of it turned negative in his eyesight, but it ended up being positive. They all came from a negative to a positive. So it just shows you that sometimes when you do something good, you're looking for a certain what's the
instant
word?
gratification.
Not instant gratification.
Instant,
you're looking for a certain
change.
Result,
Yeah.
and something different comes from it.
Right.
But it's still positive. So
Right.
yeah, so
That's kind of like planting the seed.
Exactly. And that comes all the way back from the Bible.
Wow.
Yeah, that's Galatians 6:7. Where it talks about, a man reaps what he sows.
Or a woman.
Exactly, but in the Bible,
No, just
but basically what it is if you put out good, you get good. Anything negative comes back to you negative.
As it is written, long time ago.
And I truly believe that.
Yeah,
I do. I believe that.
Well, in the age of me, and I in the world today, I mean, we should try that movement again. That'd be great for our viewing audience and our listeners to be able to, hey, kind of go back to basics and, just, do something kind for somebody.
Right.
And I know you want to talk about that as well.
Right. Well, could you imagine if everyone did something kind?
Yeah.
Just one thing a day. If you just did something kind for someone else, this world would be a much better place, you know?
It would.
We have so much going on, so much negative, like you said, so much I. Everybody's out for themselves.
It's true. I mean, it really is.
No one cares about anyone else.
It's so obvious with so many people that they're out for themselves, but it almost like, you throw it out there and then, a lot of people retract things or they don't really care, but we do need to care about others. I mean, it doesn't matter, where you come from, what your social background is or anything like that. We need to, as human beings, kind of get back to basics and start doing something as simple as holding the door.
Exactly.
For somebody. Exactly. For a lady or a man. Doesn't matter.
Right.
But
there's a couple of times when I have been a recipient of that, Well, actually, one time that I can remember that just really changed my world. Um, we were going through a hard time at one point, and I dropped my son off at school. And when I was coming home, I stopped at Dunkin' Donuts to get our favorite Dunkin' Donuts. I stopped to get a
You
coffee.
had to get that infamous latte
Had
in.
to get it. Had to get it. Anyway, so I'm waiting in line, just sitting there and I'm waiting. And when I got to the window to get my coffee and pay, the lady said, "Oh, the lady in front of you paid for your coffee already."
Wow.
I was just amazed. I couldn't believe she did that. And it was not a great big deal. It was not a lot of money, but it was just the fact that someone cared enough to pay for someone else's coffee.
They thought about you. They really did.
Right.
you
And
know?
that made such a big difference that day. It
Yeah.
really did. So I took my coffee, I thanked the woman at the window, and I pulled off to the side and parked the car, and I just started to cry.
Wow. This is my. I don't know if I heard this story.
Yeah, I
It
told
was a
you
while
this.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, I
wow.
told you this.
That's
And
fantastic.
I was I mean, I was so moved. I really wasn't. It was just a cup of coffee. But I was so moved by that. I
At the
wanted
generosity of people, right?
Right,
Yeah,
right. I was just
fantastic.
like, wow, she doesn't know me. I don't know her. And, it's a couple of bucks. But still, the fact was she did it for me,
Right.
which
Right.
she didn't have to. And, that's what I've always taught the kids growing up. I was always explaining to them that no one has to do anything for you.
Right.
So when someone does something as small as holding a door for you, you have to, like, sometimes when I'm coming through a door and someone holds the door, I'm like, thank you so much. And they
I
look
know,
at me
right?
like, okay,
I know,
but I'm
right?
like, no,
Right.
you don't know.
Right.
I've had the door closed in my face, and that was recent. We went to dinner last week, and you dropped me and Chad off, and I was walking through the door. Chad held the first door, but no, the guy walked through the door, let the door close. So Chad pulled it open, and he walked through the second door and let that close. And I hate to say it, but he did it on purpose. You could tell.
Yeah, because he saw you were behind him.
Right, I was right behind him. So immediately after that, a woman walked in right behind me. Chad was holding the door. So I walked in and she walked in and her family, and they thanked Chad. And she was just so happy. She was like I was, like if somebody holds the door. And she said, "What a nice young man." She said, "That he has manners." And I was like, well, yeah. And I joked with her. And I said, well, yeah, because I raised him that way. I said, unlike the man ahead of me.
Bam.
So, it's amazing how a person can do something so little, so minute, and it just really, really makes a big difference.
Right.
Because that hurt my feelings that he, I shouldn't say hurt my feelings, but I felt something, with him doing that.
Right. So I always say that for every action is a reaction.
Right.
Both positive and negative.
Right.
And in that particular case, that was something that we're talking about today, and you actually remembered it.
Right.
You know?
Well, yeah, you can't forget that.
Yeah. So tell me, I guess you were supposed to be telling me this, but I'm gonna jump ahead of you a little bit. Tell me one of your pay it forward moments,
Okay.
and then I'll share mine.
Okay. Right. Okay. So I remember so let me go back a little bit. We've gone through some hard times, which is great because it makes you appreciate the good times.
Right.
So things are really good now. You have your own business, so things are really good.
Uh-huh.
So the first year of business, you were always told that, oh, well, you're not going to make money in your first year of business, which was not true. You
We
did
killed
very
it.
well. You did very well.
Yeah.
So we were in, okay, well, I don't want to tell your story, but anyway, you were always doing this. So I decided that I would like to do it too, because I like to do for people also. So you gave me your credit card. We were standing in line
At Walmart.
buying groceries, and this guy was putting his food up, and he you could see he was counting
Are you talking about the time it was before Thanksgiving?
It was before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Did I not say that? I thought I said, okay.
No.
So right before Thanksgiving, it was the week of.
Right.
And he was purchasing food. You could tell it was Thanksgiving. It was the types of food you would prepare for Thanksgiving. And
the dead giveaway was the cranberry sauce.
and the big fat turkey sitting up there.
Right.
And
the big fat turkey.
You gave me the card and you said, go ahead. And so I went and I stood in front of the pad to swipe the card, and the lady, she just started smiling, but the guy did not know what was going on.
He freaked out.
Yes, he freaked
because you
He's
didn't communicate with him.
Right. I just want to go up and do a good thing and walk away and just let it be done. So he was freaking out. He was like, "Ma'am, these are my groceries. These are my." And I was like, I know. And the lady was smiling, and so eventually, because I didn't want him to stroke out, she eventually said, "Sir, she's paying for your food." So, oh my goodness, he just kind of melted, and he grabbed me and hugged me, and he was so thankful. And I said, "Well, you should thank that guy over there." And he looked to you and said, "Thank you." And then you didn't like that because you were like, "Kim, you did it." And I was like, "Okay, but you gave me the card to do it."
Right.
So a lot of times, when we do
that was
things,
a we thing.
It was a we thing, but it was a God thing. It was a godly thing because he allowed us to have it and prepared our hearts to do it.
Right.
So that's how I looked at it. But it was such a good feeling. And when I got in the car, I was elated. It was as if somebody just did something for me. Right. That's why a lot of times when people, doing that, whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah, I was. All that. But just like, I tell people a lot of times when someone's doing something for you, just be gracious, thank them, because what you're doing is you're cutting their blessings off too.
And together, pay it forward.
Pay it forward.
There you go.
Well, that's the best. That's
the whole idea of it, anyway.
Exactly. I always hope that somebody does. It's not necessarily monetary. It's anything you could do to help someone else.
So what are some of those things that we?
Well, first of all, let's tell your story.
Okay. I have a Dunkin' Donuts story. I love Dunkin' Donuts. I get you Dunkin' Donut coffee or a latte every morning.
Yeah, I think most of our stories are Dunkin' Donuts.
I know, right? This is not paid advertisement. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding you. But I didn't. It wasn't like I had a ton of money, but in the morning I would just, once in a while, at least like once a week for a little while, I was buying the guy behind me or the girl behind me, paying for their order. And normally it's a couple bucks here, a couple bucks there. But, I did that for a while, and it was really cool that there was a time where I jumped in the line to get coffee, and I gave them my card, and they said, "Oh, no, the guy in front of you already paid for your coffee." And it wasn't until that point that I really realized the impact and what I had been doing over. And you cried too, right?
You cried?
Yeah, I brought. Hold on a second. No,
I'm just kidding.
No, I brought. I thought about the impact that I was having on people, because the impact was truly felt on me, because I was like, oh my God, that was phenomenal.
Right.
I
know, doesn't it?
It was phenomenal. It was like $11 too. It was like $11. I think I got a latte, an extra large coffee, all kind of stuff.
Right.
And it was like, wow, that was freaking awesome.
Yeah, it makes you, it makes you feel better to do for someone else, because the feeling of when somebody does for you.
But it reaffirms everything that I think about humans. Mm-hmm. That, like, you always see all the negativity,
right?
Because negativity sells. Everybody loves the negativity. You know what I mean? But it reaffirmed my passion and my love for human beings. Doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
And it reaffirmed that other
I've
people feel the same way.
Right. I've always said there's more good
out
there.
There's
more good than bad.
Yeah.
They just choose to show the bad.
Exactly.
And then
divisiveness.
And then they take like a small percentage of the good to show.
Right.
Like they'll show somebody saving somebody's life, but you know what? It's not all that great. In order to save somebody's life or to help somebody, you don't have to physically pull them off a train track or, push them out of the way of a bus. It could be so many other little things just to, just to get into some things about good deeds. It's just giving somebody a smile.
I know you got a list.
Oh, I do.
Giving
Because
somebody a smile, number one.
Well,
That's
yeah,
free.
Because I've
That's
always
free.
Exactly.
That's free.
And you know what? You don't know what it does to somebody else.
Exactly.
You know the
Kind word.
The biggest thing that I say is it never hurts to say good morning or hello when you pass someone.
Or thank you.
No, but not even that. When you're passing someone on the street,
okay.
They will put their head down so they don't have to have any contact. It doesn't hurt to look somebody in the eye and say, hey, how are you doing today? Good morning. How's your day? You don't even have to go that far. You could just say hello.
Yeah.
A simple hello can change somebody's day. They could be having the worst day. That could save somebody's life.
Yeah.
And I've always said that.
Yeah.
You know, because people tend to just be into themselves. No one wants to open up. I remember growing up in New York, because everybody says New Yorkers are so, mean, angry, whatever.
Right.
I just think what it is a fast-paced life, especially if you
people
live in
trying
the
to
city.
get from point A to point
right,
B, man.
And that's what it is.
And
so
they gotta, oh my God, am I gonna catch the train? Am I gonna miss?
And they don't want to
my
take
bus?
They don't want to take 2 minutes or any minutes.
Yeah,
but
it gets
when
hustle and bustle.
Right, but when I was growing up, I just always felt like, you should always be kind and loving to people. So I'm one to want to stop and have a conversation or to listen to someone.
Right.
I'm not, I don't just brush people off and, throw people away. I know there's sometimes you look at me and you're like, let's go. But my thing is, you just never know who needs a moment.
Right. That's true.
A moment of my time.
Very true.
Nothing is going to change if I stop and give somebody a moment. You know, I know there's times when I'm in the store and the cashier, she strikes up a conversation. She just wants to talk because she's lonely. She's probably standing around waiting for customers, and then, no one's there to talk to her and whatever. But I always take that moment to show kindness to people, just to say hello or whatever.
So we know all about paying it forward now, thanks to you. What about what was the second topic that you want to talk about?
Good deeds. It all goes hand in hand.
Good deeds.
Yeah.
So what are some of the good deeds that we all can? I know that I probably need to do a better job of that.
Well, yeah. You know what? See, that's what happens when you get old. You lose your train of thought. That's what I was talking about when I said I grew up in New York. When I was growing up, all our neighbors knew each other. We were like a family. So there was I couldn't do something. If I was down the street, I couldn't do something.
That's the old school way, yeah.
Right. Like I would get scolded.
By your neighbor.
Right. And then go home and get scolded. It's a different time. No one cares for another person. So like with your neighbor, it's good to look out for your neighbor. Just to make sure your neighbors are okay. Just to make sure they're all right. I'm not saying you have to go and sit up in their house, because I'm not one for that.
Right.
But what I am saying is it doesn't hurt. Like you're very sociable. You get to know your neighbors. Yeah. You're out and about all the time. You wave, you say hello.
Yeah, I do.
And, it's just nice to know who's around you. You know what? That's for your protection also.
Right.
Because you know when somebody does not belong in your neighborhood.
Right.
So I just always say it's nice to extend yourself when you're out and about and just say hi. That's it. You don't even have to get into a full-blown conversation. You tend to, though.
Sometimes. You know. Sometimes, I'm not a nosy neighbor. I'm just a guy that likes to, be sociable.
You just like to be friendly. Yeah. There's
like
nothing
to know
wrong
who's
with that.
around.
We tease you a lot about that, but there's nothing wrong with that.
I get teased about a lot of things.
But basically, on my list of good deeds, I feel like, maybe you should help a neighbor when they need something. You have single women who probably need some things done around their house.
Right, yeah.
It doesn't hurt to just, your dad is good for that.
My
Your
dad
used to do
my
that.
dad was always good for that.
Right. He used to help all his neighbors with
was.
everything because he knew a little bit about everything.
Yes, yeah. Definitely.
So, yeah, he's definitely good at that.
Yeah.
But another one would be to volunteer for something, for an organization, just to be able to help. Like I think the best
We haven't done that.
No, we haven't, but we have to, because I used to tell the kids when they were younger that we should go into hospitals, and because you have people who are in the hospital that don't have family and friends.
Right, yeah.
No one comes to see them.
Yep.
Just to sit with someone and hold their hand and let them know that someone cares.
Yep.
You know, that would be a great gesture. I say deed, but it's really gesture, because
It's a kind act.
yeah, it's a
right?
very kind act, you know, just to be able to help somebody do that. Another good thing is to donate blood. Blood
Wow, I
is
didn't think about
always
that one.
needed. Yeah, people should make that a part of what they do. You know, and you don't have to do it all the time. I'm not saying drain
That's
yourself.
truly giving of yourself.
Exactly. It
For,
is.
you know,
It is. It
for
is.
real, you know.
It is.
That's a good idea. I haven't thought about that one. You put a little thought into that.
Yeah,
pretty
because
good.
it's something that's needed. You know, when I talk about good deeds, I don't just mean, you know, giving somebody a piece of candy. I'm just saying things that really change lives.
Yeah.
You
Save
know?
lives in that case.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a big one is to forgive people that you have a problem with. Because you know what? There is no problem so big that you can't forgive.
So all you family members out there, or husbands and wives, or whomever that doesn't want to, that holds grudges for the dumbest things
Right.
I've ever seen in my entire life.
Right. I mean, some
You
people
know?
have passed away and they look back and go, "Oh, we fought over her wearing my blouse."
Yeah.
Or something so
You know, I've always said, right? Life is not complicated. We make it complicated.
right.
And how do you make it complicated? Not forgiving that's a very good one. I'm glad you brought that up.
Right.
That's really interesting.
And to love
Yeah,
your
that's a huge one.
right. Okay.
Really is.
Okay, but to love your family.
Yeah.
You know, to love your family and to let them know that, you know, okay, we had something bad and let's get past it and move on.
Yeah.
That's the best way to do it. Not only that, not only does it make them feel better, but it also helps you the most.
Right.
Because when people hold grudges,
Kind of kills your spirit,
it
right?
really does.
I mean, it really does.
It does. It makes it hard.
It changes. I think it really does change a person, you know, and they're not willing to forgive. You know, it's just, I don't know. It feels good when you can forgive.
And you know what's funny? Like sometimes when you notice people, when they're not getting along, it's harder for you to be somewhere and say, I'm not going to talk to them. So now you're going out of your way and your every thought is about that person that you're upset with. You're just sitting there trying to avoid them instead of just letting it be.
Yeah.
You know?
See, I do that really well. Like I tell you all the time, I'm going to go ahead and forgive you for what you just said. Right? Is that the same thing?
Okay. Oh,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding you.
no, I know. Anyway, so you know, and then a big one also. I keep saying a big one, but because they're all big,
Right, and I get it.
but they're really not. They're small, but it
A
does
bigger
something
one, the
different.
biggest one. No, go ahead.
Right. Well, you know, compliment
Okay.
someone, and I'm good for this. If I see something I like, if I see a woman wearing a nice blouse or a pair of earrings, I just say, "Oh, I like that.
Right.
I like those earrings. Oh, those look really nice on you," because you know what that does for her. And I'm serious when I say it. I don't just go around complimenting people, but if I really like it, I'm going to let you know.
And for guys who've been in relationships for a very long time, it doesn't hurt. It makes for a really good weekend.
Yeah, you have
Compliment
to
your wife,
compliment
compliment your girl.
your wife
You
and your
know?
girlfriend.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, those,
But the
and
same-
notice something.
But the same thing for women. They
Yeah,
have
of
to do it
course.
for their men too, because
Yeah, of
men like to
course.
hear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Men like to be complimented too. So, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then the last one, which we also talked about, was holding the door for someone. You know, just letting somebody walk in ahead of you. It never killed anybody.
That doesn't cost anything.
Nope, not a thing. So
So those are all, that's a big list. Those are all really.
not really. I have a bigger list, but those are just a few things. I don't want
Yeah.
to stay on here for 2 hours.
No, I get it. But that's, you know, everything that you mentioned is potentially a pretty cool impact on people.
Yeah.
You know, and most of it doesn't cost a dadgone thing.
No, it doesn't.
You know? So let's talk about the latest news that I told you about this morning.
Oh, okay.
Okay. There was a couple out there there was a lady who was, it ran out of gas in I guess, an unsavory location. And a homeless man came and gave her his last $20 to get gas. They started a GoFundMe page, and I guess the guy had issues, you know. That's why he was on the street. And so they raised a huge amount of money, like $400,000 or something like that. And they gave him $75 or $75,000 of the money to buy some stuff, but they wouldn't release the rest of the money. And I want to know what you think about that.
Well, they wouldn't release it because they said that he used it for drugs.
Right.
He bought a couple of things like
Yeah.
a little camper and things like that. But
And
they
an
said
SUV. You know.
Right. They said he used it for drugs and shared with his friends, and they refused to give him the rest of the money.
Right.
Well, I kind of straddle the fence on that because I understand what they're doing.
Yeah, I definitely understand what they're doing.
I do understand that, but people donated the money for him.
Right. Not for them.
For them.
Not for them.
So, you know.
So they now have a new BMW. I'm not passing any judgment because I don't know all the answers to the story.
They said they could prove that
Yeah.
it wasn't purchased with that money. So.
But I don't. But I told you this morning their house got raided today. The police went there.
Yeah.
They want to know where the money's at.
Right.
You know.
Well.
Hey, listen. You start a GoFundMe page to help somebody, then you know you're putting yourself in a position that okay, you got to help somebody. You have to help that person, and you know you should maybe you should have put a caveat in the whole GoFundMe thing. You know.
Right.
If you're a drug addict, you know.
Well, they really, how it started, they didn't expect to raise that much money.
Of course.
So, you know.
Yeah, anyway. And then it went bananas and.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We need to wrap this up. So.
Okay.
Let's
Well, let's ask some of our viewers and people who might be watching
or listening.
Or listening. Thank you. I'd love to know some of your pay it forward stories.
I would love to hear that.
Maybe get some feedback on some good deeds.
Right. And leave
so
comments
if you have
below.
anything,
right.
Any suggestions for us going into the holiday season next few months, hey, hit us up and let us know what's going on.
Okay. Well, let's wrap this up.
All righty. Good job.
Good job.
Awesome.